Hello, it's Martin Shoemaker again. I realized in yesterday's video or Friday's video, when was that one? Whenever it was, I realized I never introduced myself. Martin L. Shoemaker, award-winning science fiction author. I kind of assumed anybody watching the video would know who I was because that's how they would have found it. But you know, I hope more people find these down the road. So it probably is a good thing to do to introduce myself and explain what we're here for more briefly than last time. We are here for me to get on my treadmill so I can get some exercise and simultaneously dictate a chapter of an upcoming book called Building the Future, which will be available through the Kindle Vella platform. And down the road, maybe other platforms as well, but exclusive to the Kindle Vella at the start. I started doing my setup for tonight's presentation at 5:30. Lesson learned, half an hour is not quite long enough. I still have to plug in my microphone. This is the dictation microphone, separate from the Zoom recording microphone. This is so that I can record what I dictate and later transcribe it with Dragon Naturally Speaking, paste it into a Word document as a first draft, clean that up, fix any mistakes I made along the way, whether those be word choice or just a bad transcription, or whether they be things I got wrong in my world building because I can't look things up to remember how I had them while I'm walking on a treadmill. So I'm going to it'll depend on what my energy level is. And you are invited to watch along. So you can get the very first look at this story as it's stated. Find my safety tether, so that if I fall off the treadmill, not impossible, but I don't expect it to happen, it will automatically stop and my medical alert will let the emergency crew know that I have fallen and injured myself. Unlikely. So I am going to pick up where I left off on the last session. And so I will start my transcription recorder. And it didn't do anything. So I will test this again. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. All right, I'm plugged into the recorder, which is plugged into the output speakers. I am getting message hold. This is technical difficulties. While I will be very happy to entertain you for an hour, my goal is words that I can publish. That's more like it. Now we are getting some words recorded. And I am ready to start really dictating, comma, which means I will start speaking my punctuation, comma, which I know may be annoying, period. My apologies, comma, that's the process if I want a good transcription, period. Start the treadmill and go. Exclamation point, new line, new line. Bring it up to 15% elevation and 2 miles per hour. Dot, 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 and go, period. New line, new line. Once I had my duffel sealed, comma, I turned to donning my excursion suit, period. I opened the hard-shelled case and unpacked the leggings, comma, the girdle, comma, the torso, comma, and the arms, period. Then I lifted out the top tray, comma, and I pulled out my boots and my helmet, period. I ran through my checklist and inspected each part for wear, comma, and judged them good, period. Then I said, comma, Donihue, comma, when you're ready, period, new line. Byron answered, comma, I'm just finishing here, period. Let's swap, period, new line. We swapped places, comma, which was easy for two unsuited figures in the Mars tent, period. The space would become much more cramped once we suited up, period. Then I inspected his gear, comma, as he inspected mine, period. New line. His had more wear on it than mine, period. Even though he'd never attended Martian survival school before, comma, Donihue had been on some excursions for the initiative, period. His suit showed more actual use, period. But it was all well within inspection limits, period. I opened the inspection form on my comp, comma, and I approved each item, period. Just as I was finishing, comma, I received his approval across the local net, comma, and we were ready to suit up, period. new line. We went back to our own suits, comma, closed the case lids, comma, and set to donning our gear, period. These new model suits were still not as simple as putting on interior clothing, comma, but every generation got better, period. I clapped the knee joints in place first, comma, closed the seals, comma, and verified that I had room to flex in them, period. Then I put on the shin plates and the thigh plates, comma, and sealed those as well, period. Note to self, colon, go back and have him sit on the hard case for the leggings, period. New line. Next, I slid my arms into the two sleeves, comma, and verified seal and flexibility on both of those, period. When I was satisfied, comma, I slid my arms through the straps of the back plate, comma, securing it behind me, semicolon, and then I pulled the front plate on and triggered the automatic latches to tie the two halves together, period. New line. Then I stood for what was often the most trouble-prone part of the process, colon, the girdle, period. If I'd made any mistake along the way, comma, I'd know it when the girdle didn't fit. Period. I stood to put my legs into the large opening, semicolon. But before I could, comma, I heard Byron cursing behind me, period. Burn it, exclamation point, new line. I turned to him, period. Problems, question mark, new line. I saw that he was already in his girdle, comma, and he was frowning at his suit readout, period. I don't have a seal on the right buttock, period, new line. 15 weeks ago, comma, I might have made an obvious joke at that, semicolon. But Nick Ames had a way of curing you of humor when it came to life and death issues like suit seals, period. It involved really dirty punishment duty down in the city's recycler systems, period. After I'd made that mistake twice, comma, I'd taken to heart, colon, air security is never a joke, period. New line. New line. Let me look, comma, I said, period. Turn around, period. New line. He did, comma, and I knelt down to peer at the joint between his girdle and his right leg, period. There was nothing obvious, comma, and it could have been a failure in his suit comp, period. It's never impossible, period. And on some training exercises, comma, Holmes and Ames could even force particular readings to the computer systems, comma, to see how you handled the situation, period. But this is supposed to be a real live exercise, comma, no simulated crises, period. If there was a computer error, comma, it was a real one, period. New line. Let me get a thermal, comma, I said, period. I brought my left sleeve with its embedded comp up near his suit, period. Hold still, period. Byron froze as I scanned the temperature of his leggings and the seal, period. New line. There's a trace here, comma, I said, period. New line. A trace, question mark, new line. A dot dot dot. A cool spot in the joint, period. That could be pinhole leak, comma, suit air coming out, period. New line. Burn it, exclamation point. New line. Yeah, comma. This isn't good, period. The comp says it's consistent with a leak of about 0.05 milliliters per second, period. New line. That's what my comp was saying too, comma. Byron answered, period. It just hadn't located the leak, period. New line. All right, comma. I said, comma. We know procedure, period. Time to call the commander, period. New line. Yep, comma, he answered, period. If this had been an emergency and we'd had to evacuate quickly, comma, we might have taken off the girdle, comma, slapped on some vacuum rosin and a patch, comma, and resumed suiting up, period. And we still might do that, comma, but not without orders, period. Byron opened the local comm channel, period. Command, comma, Donihue, period. We have a situation, period. New line. Anthony Holmes' voice came across the channel, period. Donihue, comma, command, period. Emergency, question mark. New line. Command, comma, Donihue, period. Negative, period. Personal, comma, and under control, period. Need instructions, period. New line. Donihue, comma, command, period. If it's not an emergency, comma, let's take it to channel 3, period. We all switched channels to a dedicated circuit, period. The rest of the team didn't need to listen in on this, period. They had their own work to do, period. New line. Byron explained the leak. Period. Recommended procedure, comma, sir, question mark. New line. Holmes answered, comma, Donihue, comma, command, period. Recommend you use your best judgment, period. New line. From the look on Byron's face, comma, I knew he wanted to curse, period. They were using this as yet another damn test, period. Checking our judgment, period. New line. He turned to me and made the throat cut gesture to turn off comms, period. I did, period. Then he said, comma, what's your opinion, comma, Knighton, question mark, new line. Hell, comma, it's not my ass on the line, period. Then I winced, period. I guess I still made inappropriate jokes, period. After 40 years, comma, that's a habit I was unlikely to break, period. New line. He checked his comm, period. We're ahead of schedule, comma, and these are not emergency conditions, period. Let's check inventory, period. We checked our comps, comma, and we both found that reconfigurable leg gaskets were among our spare parts, period. We have time to make the swap, comma, he said, period. And then we can put my gasket in the assembler for repair, period. What do you think? Question mark. New line. I looked at the schedule, period. We've got time, comma, but let's not waste any of it, period. I concur, period. New line. He tapped his comm to reopen channel 3, period. Command, comma, Donihue, period. We have evaluated, comma, and we recommend a field replacement of the gasket followed by nano assembly repair, period. New line. The voice that answered wasn't Anthony Holmes, period. Donihue, comma, Ames, period. Are you sure about that? Question mark. New line. Byron glanced at me, comma, and I was nodding vigorously, period. Never show weakness with Nick Ames, period. Never show arrogance, comma, never show stupidity, comma, but never show weakness, period. New line. Without missing a beat, comma, Byron answered, comma, Ames, comma, Donihue, period. Yes, comma, sir, period. Unless there's a change in the schedule that makes this an emergency, comma, we think the right course of action is to replace the gasket, period. New line. Donihue, comma, Ames, period. All right, comma, get to it, period. But before you put the old gasket in the assembler, comma, I want you to lead me through an inspection, period. Ames out, period. When the comm signal cleared, comma, Byron grinned at me, period. I think we got it, period. New line. I think we did, comma, I answered, period. At least he's not chewing us out for how stupid we are, comma. So that's the best we can hope for right now, period. He glanced toward the tent lock, period. So do we have it delivered, question mark? Or do we go get the gasket, question mark? New line. I thought for a second, period. Faster if we go get it, period. We don't know where anyone else is in breaking down camp, comma, and I've got to finish suiting up anyway, period. I'll go out to the crawler and get the replacement gasket while you get out of that girdle, period. New line. Of course, comma, going out to the crawler still required my own inspection, all passed, dash, dash. And then putting on my boots and helmet and sealing those up, period. I ran diagnostics while Byron inspected, period. When everything passed, comma, he put 2 air bottles in my pack, comma, checked my pressure, comma, and gave me a thumbs up, period. New line. Then I unsealed the tent lock and climbed inside, period. Once the seal lights were green, comma, I started the pumps to pump the air out of the small fiberglass envelope. Comma, as if I were being shrink wrapped. Period. It's never possible to scavenge all the air during a lock cycle, comma, but we knew from past experience Ames would be measuring how much we reclaimed, period. If I held very still, comma, we'd get most of it, period. New line. My right hand was near the seal for the outer flap, comma. So I was able to twitch it a little bit and activate the zipper to start peeling it away, period. The thin Martian atmosphere wasn't much more than the near vacuum I was sealed in, comma. So the flap didn't open easily, comma. I had to wriggle my way out, period. Not unlike escaping mother's womb, period. God, what a memory. ... New line. Then I was out, comma, and sealing the outer flap again, period. I saw that only one tent was already collapsed, comma, and the occupants folding it up, period. That one surely was Holmes and Ames's tent, period. The others were no farther than us, comma, save that one suited figure, dash dash, Lisa Taylor, comma, from her blue and red stripe pattern on her suit, dash dash, was outside inspecting her tent, period. I waved to her, comma, but she didn't notice, period. That was fine, period. Social interaction is a necessary component of survival, comma, but it's well down the list, period. I made my way to the crawler, comma, and I tapped the access code for the lock, period. While I waited for it to cycle, comma, I looked out across the red stone surface of Coprades quadrangle, just in time to see Deimos zipping by, period. New line. May I never get so used to space, comma, so jaded, comma, that sight doesn't thrill me, period. For a boy from Schuyler, Virginia, to be standing on the surface of Mars, comma, watching the moons pass by, ... Damn, comma, it's a good life, comma, despite any problems, period. New line. The lock opened, comma, and I stepped in, period. No plastic envelope here, comma. This was a personnel lock large enough for 2 people to pass at a time, period. 3 in an emergency, period. That meant it took longer to pump the air out, comma, but not long at all to refill once I was inside, period. As soon as the green light lit, comma, I cycled the door open and climbed inside, period. The Fowler was one of the biggest crawlers at Maxwell City, period. The only larger ones were Initiative troop transports, period. The Fowler was a comfortable base for 8 people plus gear for a trek more than 20% across the surface of Mars, period. It had sleeping accommodations for all of us, period. We didn't really need to sleep on the surface, comma, but that was part of our training, period. Holmes said we would camp out every night that it was safe, comma, just for extra drill in the excursion routines, period. There was also plenty of food, comma, and even a cycler and an algae and soy farm to make more if needed, period. When Ames had shown us around, comma, he had laughed. Comma, sardonically, period. I kept a whole stranded team alive on Mars for 5 months with less than this, period. You don't know how lucky you've got it, period. New line. I went to the equipment locker, period. It was stacked with spare parts, semicolon. But more important, comma, it was stacked with raw material for the assembler plant in the cupboard next to it, period. We could assemble anything we needed in rosin, comma, rubber, comma, and metal, period. We didn't have the material for stone fabrication or for replacement organs, comma, but we were set for spare parts beyond that, period. New line. I opened the inventory screen, comma, and I found the cupboard with the gaskets, period. I checked one out, comma, assigned it to Byron, comma, did a manual inventory to make sure the remaining count matched what was expected, period. Then I closed the cupboard, comma, sealed it up, comma, and made my way back outside, period. New line. New line. Installing the new gasket took longer than expected, comma, but still within our tolerance, period. Byron took some images of a small burr on the leg opening of his girdle, comma, right about where the seal had broken, period. After confirming with Holmes, comma, we filed down the burr and wrapped a patch over it, period. New line. What do you suppose caused that? Question mark. I asked, period. New line. Byron shook his head, period. Things wear out, comma, Knighton, period. It happens, period. He looked over my suit, period. You've got better, comma, more durable gear, period. The initiative buys for high volume and lowest bid, period. New line. That's got to make you feel comfortable, period. New line. In the end, comma, we're not relying on the supplier to be perfect, period. We're relying on our inspections to catch problems, comma, and our readiness to fix what we don't catch, period. New line. I nodded, period. Isn't that what we're supposed to be out here to learn? Question mark. New line. He shook his head, period. That's what you're out here to learn, period.
That's what I'm out here to certify, period. I know everything Holmes and Ames are teaching us, period. Everything, question mark, new line. He gave a half grin, period. Well, comma, most of it, period. I've had enough EVAs and enough drill that I know a lot of this, period. But it's not certified, period. And until it is, comma, I can't get assigned as escort to surface expeditions, except as part of an initiative team, period. New line. You're the escort for this mission, comma, I said, period. New line. Special case, period. He started to put the new girdle on, period. I'm escort / trainee, comma, which is good enough, period. Especially with Nick Ames along, period. To my commander, comma, he's the real escort, period. I'm just the trainee, period. New line. I thought the initiative didn't like Nick Ames, period. New line. He stopped assembling the girdle, comma, and he looked at me, period. This ain't on the record, comma, Knighton, comma, he said, period. New line. I nodded, period. All right, comma, off the record, period. But I can't help if it affects my judgment on some future story, period. New line. Fair enough, period. He pressed the two halves of the girdle together, comma, and pushed the auto seal, period. This time the light was green, period. New line. You got it right, period. The top brass has no use for Ames, period. I don't have to tell you the reasons why, period. New line. But a lot in my chain of command know better, period. They still care more about results than authorizations, period. And Nick Ames has an unbroken track record of bringing people home alive, period. Nobody can save everybody, semicolon. But if you live through the initial crunch of whatever goes wrong, comma, you can do it knowing that Nick Ames is coming for you as soon as circumstances allow, period. That's important to those of us in the initiative who do the real work, period. You don't leave anyone behind, period. And Nick Ames never has, period. New line. New line. All right, we're really close to the 1 hour. I'm really winded. I need to get back in shape, so 1 hour goes a little easier. But I'm going to stop now. $656, 486 calories. I didn't catch the number of miles, but it was 2 to 3 miles an hour for pretty much the whole way. Call it 2.5. Friday, I did 1.69 miles. I will call it 2.5 tonight in roughly 45 minutes. I do like an awful lot of things about my WorkFit treadmill from Exerputic. Dumbest name in the business, period. Oh, I said that last time, period. And now I'm speaking my punctuation again, period. Stop that, exclamation point. New line. I do like my WorkFit treadmill desk. There's an awful lot of good things I can say about it. One of the annoying things compared to commercial treadmills, such as you'll find in a gym, is it only holds on to your results for maybe 15 seconds after you stop the treadmill. And if I'm not paying attention and thinking about it, I don't know exactly what my total results were. I managed to catch the calorie burn just in time this time, but I didn't catch the total miles or the total time. Total time was right around 50 minutes, 48, something like that. It was 45 when I started to see the end of the chapter in sight. I wish I could explain that better. It's just an instinct. I started to see a good chapter break on this topic of we're trusting him, even though the bosses hate Nick, we're trusting him because our chain of command knows he doesn't let people down. He doesn't leave people behind. And he's got a track record to prove that, as you have seen in The Last Dance and the last campaign. Nobody's perfect, but his odds are really good. And maybe, I don't really know because I dictate this as I go. I'm a pantser. I dictate by the seat of my pants and figure it out as I go. But maybe that's going to be an important theme coming out of this as Knighton and Donihue and the rest learn to Nick Ames's attitude. You don't leave anybody behind. So, that's a pretty good night here. I need to now let you go because I promised you a 1 hour meeting so I can unhook things. And then I need to go take a shower because I stink, and then go to the store and buy cat litter because the cat boxes stink. So that's a pretty good time to stop.